Hi Tarot Tribe, it's Ethany, and today I am going to be talking about how to use multiple tarot and oracle decks in a reading. This was requested by a couple of people from the Academy, so I'm going to share my tips for using them, and then I'm also going to give you examples. So what I've done is I've created a downloadable, which is a pre-downloadable with 3 new spreads that I've created for this purpose. You can go and download them from ethany.com, and it'll be in the description below. And I will talk about the tips, and then at the end of the video, we're going to switch cameras and I'll run you through each one of the spreads. This is probably going to be quite a long tutorial today, but you know, that's grand, right? And you can see my little altar in the background there, that way. Yeah. And if you can hear cars, it's because they're tearing up the road outside. There's not much I can do about that. So, cityscape loveliness. Alrighty, as always, use what resonates with you and discard the rest. You do not, my first thing is kind of a little bit of a disclaimer, I guess. You do not have to have a lot of decks to be a phenomenal tarot reader or oracle reader or spiritual person. You just don't. I've talked about this a number of times. If you only have one deck, that's great. If you only use oracle decks, that's great. If you only use tarot, that's great. Who cares? Just do what is right for you. There is no right or wrong as far as I'm concerned. This is for people who want to learn how to incorporate more than one deck in a reading and how to use tarot and oracle together, etc. So please don't feel like this is me pressuring you to go out and buy decks, because it's certainly not the case. Okay, so the first way that you can use multiple decks in a reading is to create specific spreads. So you can use multiple decks with specific spreads in mind, like the 3 that I've created, or you can create them yourself. So using more than one deck can be really good if you're facing a situation where there are more than one option available to you or more than one path in front of you, because each deck can represent an option. That way you can create a spread or a path, just have a line of cards for, you know, pathway A or choice A, pathway B or choice B, pathway C, that kind of thing. And I talked about one of this with my lovely students at the Academy about doing this very thing. And one of the great things about using multiple decks in this is you can see if there are any same cards that come up on each path. And for me, what that would mean to me, if I was reading for a client or for myself in that instance, is that that's going to happen no matter what you choose. There is like a defined energy. So you can see which one feels the most powerful or the most opportune, or the one that's going to give you the most opportunity to grow. So there's an immense amount of stuff that you can learn from doing multiple pathways. And you could also just do something where you have, say, an oracle card for each pathway. So have one oracle card for each pathway, and then have a line of tarot underneath all 3 to see how that lesson or that path's theme is going to come out. So it's very much using your imagination on that one. So you can do this with timing as well. So you can use one tarot or oracle deck for the next 3 months, and then another one for the 3 months after that, and then one for 3 months after that. So like you can grid it out and see whether any of these energies are coming, are like thematic, whether this is a big thing you're working with. It definitely helps if you're working with the tarot or oracle decks as a spiritual practice, which is one of the applications that the tarot has. So in my yearly readings, my overview readings that I offer once a year near the end of each calendar year, I use multiple tarot and oracle decks in those readings. They tend to be these massive mandalas for my clients. So I use one tarot deck for new moon energies, and I use one tarot deck for full moon energies, and I work with how they link together. And then I have oracle decks for other important energies and themes as well. So I definitely use more than one deck usually every day. Maybe not more than one tarot deck, but I definitely mix my oracle and my tarot decks as well. Okay, so the second way that you can use multiple decks is you can separate out your current tarot deck. So you can use decks with major arcana only cards. So some people have trump only or major only decks as key positions in a spread, and then use a complete tarot deck for the rest of the reading. Now I know that there are spreads out there that get you to separate out your deck, but it's great if you just have a major only, because then you don't have to sit there going through it all and separating it out. Because I don't know about you, I know some people do this, but I don't put my deck back in order after every time I've used it. Oh my god, I'd be there all day. At the end of the day, it would be nice if I had the time to do that, but I cleanse it, and that's about it. I leave it. You can separate out the major arcana, the court cards, and the minor, and have a play around with those in specific positions in a reading. But this is more about using the major arcana only deck as the major lessons, and have that as the keystones, and then having another full tarot deck to complement it, so you're using more than one deck in that. So the major arcana is usually seen as the spiritual or major themes of a reading or of our lives, and then the minor arcana can be seen as the everyday magic or stepping stones or real life kind of reflections. They're more practical in a reading. And then the court cards are really great for looking at personalities and people. So when you start to, especially if you're doing spiritual work, it's good to separate these certain aspects of the tarot out. So this is just a couple of suggestions of the couple of ways that you can separate out your current decks. You could do the same thing in regards to suits. So you could grab 4 or 5 tarot decks and grab a suit from each one and play around with that. So there's many ways that you can do that. My third tip for using multiple oracle and tarot decks in a reading is to mix tarot and oracle decks, which is my favorite. I recently made a video about using tarot and oracle decks together, and you can find the link in the description below and over at ethne.com. And this really is my favorite way of doing it and adding depth and just a little extra magic to your readings. My fourth tip for using multiple oracle and tarot decks in a reading is to use different types of decks. So you can mix up the different decks you have access to. So I like doing this as well. So say for example I'm doing a love reading, so I may have my Victorian Romantic Tarot that I'm going to use, and then I may have my True Love cards, or I may have my Fairies for the Healing for the Heart, the Heart of Fae, by Brian Froud, the Frouds. It's a beautiful relationship one. I may have some past life cards, I may have a crystal deck, and I may have a chakra one. And so what that does is it pieces together the different aspects of that reading. So we have the tarot, which is going to be the major player, and then maybe add the fairy card as somewhere that this relationship can grow. I actually got these, I haven't unboxed them yet, but I got the Lovers Oracle. I'm going to unbox it soon, so that could be one that I could use too, and then have an oracle for that, so that you can work on that in your relationship, and then have a crystal that maybe wants to work with you, and what crystal energy you're to bring in, and then what chakra needs work, and so sitting with the chakra. Or you can do an animal, what animal is asking you to work with it in regards to love. So you can play around, like what affirmations am I going to give, what kind of things can I give to people to work with. That's one of my favorite things, is giving people some tools to the next step, to move forward. And then my fifth tip for using multiples is just go with the flow. So this is really great for all of us who like to work intuitively, see what feels right and what decks are calling to you to be worked with, and don't question it, just kind of go with it. Some days you may want to work with a lot of tarot decks and a lot of oracle decks, and other days you may just want to work with one. That's cool. You may have a bunch of decks that work very well for past life readings, or that like to work with very specific clients, or that are seasonally rotated like a lot of us do. So just kind of go with it. I very much choose my decks intuitively for my clients, and I also have decks that I use a lot throughout the season, so you've seen me kind of go through the wheel of that with a lot of other YouTubers. So just kind of going with the flow, really, you know, I really enjoy that. But I do have my workhorse deck, which is now the Druidcraft Tarot that I work with nearly every day. And my last little tip, which is not really a tip on the subject, but it's just to wrap up, is to try not to overwhelm yourself. Remember, it's all on how you feel, and it should be fun. It shouldn't be like, oh shit, now Anthony's telling me I need to go and add more bloody cards to my reading. I just kind of got used to the 78 cards and you want me to do what? Like, no, if it stresses you out, don't do it. Just enjoy the process and don't confuse yourself. Try it again later, come back to it maybe in a month or however, or when you feel like tackling a challenge, if it's going to be a challenge for you. But I suggest, like as always, to try a few things and see how you enjoy it, and definitely try a few of the tarot spreads that I created for the multiples in the download, the free download, and see how I work with it coming up next, so that you can kind of get an idea of how I do it. And we all have different ways of doing it. So I'm going to swap over cameras now, and I will see you on the flip side. Hi lovely ones, now we're going to look at the different spreads that I have created for you in the downloadable down at ethany.com for using multiple decks in a reading. Before I go through, let's have a look at the decks that I've selected. So I've selected 4 tarot decks and 1 oracle deck, and you will see when we get to the second spread why I've chosen this many decks. So we have the Witch's Tarot, the Druidcraft Tarot, the Awakened Soul Oracle, the Animal Totem Tarot, and the Golden Thread Tarot. So I'm going to go through each one of the spreads that I created for you and give you an example of how to kind of pull it all together, and different ways in which you can play with it and change around the suggestions. So let's get started. Okay. Alrighty, so we're going to start with the first one, which is the lessons, the major lessons spread. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle the Oracle deck. You can pull these cards, and the reason why I haven't put numbers on any of the spreads is because you can really pull these in any order that you like. I like to have the purple ones, which are the sort of the ones that I'm going to use for oracle decks, as the main key points to maybe be oracle, or you can spin it around. If you believe the tarot has more of a oomph to it, then use that. But I'm going to use an oracle deck for the purple, so I suggest at least going with one. So we pull a card from our oracle deck. Okay, so action, and make sure that y'all can see that. Okay, cool. So action is our major lesson. This is what we're learning. So what that's a very big thing in regards to, like, there's a lot of complexities to that. So we're going to pull some cards, some tarot cards, to give some more explanation and some meat to this journey, and to have a look at the other aspects. So we've got resistance, opportunity, release, and embrace. So I'm going to use the Witch's Tarot for this. I'm just giving it a quick shuffle. I can't help it, I have to shuffle and cut the deck as well, which is quite funny. So then we lay them out. Okay, And so then we can see how these cards play together and what they bring to the reading. So let's have a look at how we can weave this together if this was a reading for a client of mine. So if action is the key theme and the major lesson that's going on right now, the resistance is the 10 of Pentacles. So this for me would scream the person doesn't want to move out of home, doesn't want to leave their security, doesn't want to leave the known, has gotten very used to what's going on around them and used to what they have, this being like a very homey card, especially when it's the home. I would definitely say this person doesn't want to leave home. The opportunity, the Knight of Pentacles, provides, well, there's an immense opportunity out there for them to find their own purpose. Knights are all about purpose and quests, and go out there and make their mark in the world. And what I adore about the Knight of Pentacles in this particular spread and in this particular situation, even though it's completely made up, is that it's saying take action, and they're both on horses. Yeah, take action every day. Like take the road less followed, allow it to take time. You know, sometimes when we leave home or we graduate or we change jobs, we want everything right now and we don't enjoy the journey and we don't allow it to take time. That's one. We're also impatient because we have, especially in the Western world, we have a society that cashes in on our impatience constantly. We need everything right now. So this is the Knight that reminds us that we don't actually need everything right now and that we can take one thing at a time. And then the release, the Six of Wands down here, we need to release that, well, we need to be a little less stubborn around that and release this whole thing of maybe you were the golden person in your hometown, or maybe you could do no wrong and other people are doing everything for you. This is a card of victory. You kind of like what you're doing right now. You don't really have to strive for much. So maybe you need to release the fact that things are going to change and release the fact that you are now going to have to strike out on your own. And then embrace the Three of Cups. So there is a huge big world out there, and through your action you can meet all these amazing people and celebrate your life and celebrate this new journey in your life. So this is how you can use an oracle card to anchor the reading. So if we change the oracle card real quick, I'm just going to pull another one. Whoop. Okay, so meditate is the major lesson here. So we've now changed the lesson. I'm just going to quickly run through this and then move on to the second spread. So meditate for me would be that this person is moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour and really needs to slow down. They aren't doing any spiritual practice on the daily or consistently. They're resisting this maybe because they were brought up in a religious family, or maybe there is something in regards to the environment at home is not allowing them the space. They need things to be perfect before they start. The opportunity again is to, this doesn't really change very much in regards to meditation, because again it's something that takes time and that you should do on a frequent basis, and that's definitely the Knight of Pentacles, just to keep going. Release this got to do it right the first time, and I have to be meditating right, and I have to like do it the way that XYZ tells me to do it, and not finding a way in which it works for you. And embrace the diversity and embrace whatever, you know, learn from different teachers, try different spiritual techniques, try different relaxation techniques. I mean, I like to meditate. I get a lot of very meditative sort of vibes while I'm working out, which is maybe weird, but that's just the way I work. So see how it can shift when we choose an oracle card and when we change it around. So that's the first one. And some oracle decks can be very elusive, but some of them are very, very straightforward. So I'm kind of wishing, I'm just going to go grab another one to cut out. All right, I just got the Sacred Rebels Oracle too to to see if we can, because these are very, Blue Angel ones are very popular, and mine can be, I guess the Awakened Soul Oracle can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. So I wanted to use one that may be a little less, I don't know, open. I could be wrong. I don't know. It's extremely hot today and I'm baking in here. All right, so the second one is our stock spread. So taking stock, you know, wanting to know what's going on and sort of how to get there. And don't be afraid to use more than one Oracle deck too. Like, if you want to do that, go for it. My big thing is, as I think I said in the video, don't confuse yourself. So we've got situation, theme. We need a lot of room for this. I'm just going to make sure you can see it all. Opportunity, challenge. Okay, so now we're going to use a tarot deck to do the past, future and transition. And I do have to credit the lovely, I'm not sure where she got it from, but I do have to credit Elise at Wild Moon Woman, because she showed me this 3-card spread, I think back in 31 Days of Tarot in January. And I was like, oh my god, I love that image. Okay, so past. Oh, we need to move this out a little bit. This one you might, I'm just gonna, let me still got room. Last thing I want to do is cut it off. Okay. Lots of birdies. I don't read reversals. If you do read reversals, you can go right ahead, but they're not my thing. Okay, so this is a big one. So I'm not going to do 2 of these. Sods about that. So we're going to go through all of them. So the situation up the top here is Heaven Sent. Now another thing with Oracle cards is if it's something like that where it's like, well, we see that the third eye and crown chakra is activated in that one. Sometimes you will need to have a look at, or you can do totally go intuitively, but you can also see what someone, you know, what the author has said. So the Oracle brings a message of love yourself and let yourself be helped. And so that for me would be an important statement to read. The rest of it, I don't really need to look up, but that one seemed a little bit elusive to me. So, because I would just go about opening up the third eye, the higher chakras, but the allow yourself to be helped makes a lot more sense. So in the past, this person had a quite, if we look at Temperance, had a very kind of chilled out life. Like there wasn't a lot of struggle, but now they've moved into this 9 of Swords, and that allow yourself to be helped is so key, I feel, in this. And I did not make that up, you can look in the book. And how to get there is to acknowledge that things aren't great anymore, that things have changed, and you have the power. Take that wand and run with it. Don't allow the swords, 9 of Swords, to take your power away. So run with it and go, okay, I actually need some assistance here. There is bravery in, there's bravery in knowing that you need assistance. And then the theme is what you want wants you, with the Knight of Cups, Justice, and the 7 of Wands. So the Knight of Cups, for this, for me, if I was running through this for a client, there is a real theme here of worthiness, of feeling worthy. And the reason I say that is because we've got down here this card of the 7 of Wands, which is quite a defensive card, and feeling defensive about what you want and maybe not feeling worthy about what you want. But that's working through that and releasing that is how you're going to get to justice, is how you're going to get to this space of the universal laws of attraction actually working in your favor. Right now you're too in deep very much with this Nine of Swords. You're too in deep within the emotion of it, that you're letting the emotion of that you're sitting in, which is maybe not so nice, allow you to feel not worthy. So that would be that for me up there. So moving through that defensiveness and dropping down and allowing some help and using the law of attraction, finally getting what you deeply desire. The opportunity down here is to really sort through what you feel. So are you picking up on other people's stuff? Are you taking on other people's things and not really seeing it for yourself? And is it not for you? The world in the past, you've been very good at not doing this, but again, we have this blockage. And then we've got the devil as well, which is saying you need to get more practical and maybe look at your defenses. Those the two traps that are really calling me. So to look at maybe your boundaries and not to allow people to stick you in situations where you're taking other people's stuff. Maybe this person's a very empathetic person, and how they're going to get there is through trusting their intuition again. And then finally, listening for your truth. Again, going to that intuition, listening to who you are and listening to your vibes and your body and your mind and your soul and doing what you need. In the past, this person has taken on way too much stuff, just like way too much, and they're being asked to go in the future to be more carefree and find the messages of love in the universe and for them and around them, and be with people who will lift them up and enlighten them and make them shine. And then how we do that is to know that you actually can move through all this. I mean, this is the Victory card. This is a card of success, and maybe a journey needs to be taken. Often when I get the Six of Wands energy, I feel that there's almost like that personal quest, and this person needs to give themselves purpose and find their own purpose and not allow others to dictate it for them. So that's the stock spread and how we've used tarot and the oracle together. We've looked at the oracle deck as being the key theme, and then the tarot has been the supporting role in it, as I've hopefully shown you how they link together a little bit more. So I'm going to do one more. I know this video is probably going to be wicked long, but hey, you get that. Some of you have been asking for a longer tutorial, so here we go. Just on this, before I move on, I've pulled these upright so you can see them a little bit more. Check. I like to have a look around of a whole reading to see how, look for things aesthetically, and this is why I really suggest working with a deck that aesthetically pleases you. So if we have a look here at the Knight of, up the top, the Knight of Cups, the Seven of Wands, and Justice, the bird down the bottom in the Knight of Cups is quite low in. It's coming in to the shore. It's in a more of a closed off landing position, whereas this Justice card is just like completely embracing the world and is spread out, and that is a very vulnerable pose for any animal. The jugular, all of the bits, all of our chunky bits and all the bits that make us work are exposed in that, but there's no fear there. So moving through that, I mean, what does that tell you about it, and how does that relate when we come off from a closed position of that Knight of Cups? We drop our defenses in that skunk and in that the Seven of Wands, and then we open ourselves back up again. So have a look at those sorts of things. We've got a wand in the middle of two cups. We have two wands and then a cup. So there's a lot of wands and cup energy going on here. There's another wand there. So very little, there's only a couple of swords, but what's missing is pentacles. That's another thing, what's missing in a reading. And for any of you taking any of my courses, I talk about what's missing in a reading as one thing you can look at. So there's no pentacles. So maybe this person needs to get outside and do some practical things, because there's no real grounding things going on. And this is another very key indication that's a very key indication that there's also no grounding going on, with that being a higher chakra card. So I just had to swap over the memory card. I'm hoping this doesn't blink out on me again. For some reason it stopped recording, so hopefully that does not happen again. So now we're going to move on to the final one, which is the moon one. So and for this, I'm going to use a different tarot deck for each of the moons, which is one of the reasons why I got a lot of my cards out today. That, and I like to play with my cards anyway. Alright, so I'm going to use all the decks that I have out, or a lot of the decks that I have out. Okay, so this is New Full Dark. You can put waxing and waning in there as well. You can put whatever dates are going on within that moon phase. That moon cycle that are important to you. This was just me keeping it simple. Interesting that those are reversed, right? Because the magic is a big thing to happen around the full moon, but we've got them reversed. I'm just going to make sure that you can see it. I might have to zoom out a little bit. Okay. So now we have our 3 cards for the full and the dark. Okay. And then we're going to put the supporting cards. Do more. Do less. Do more. I'm just picking them at random. Do less. Oh, another major arcana card there. Do more. Do less. Very interesting, considering how almost contradictory these energies are to the natural sort of moon cycles, but the moon phases. But hey, sometimes that sort of stuff happens. So let's start at the beginning. The new moon, we've got magic. We're being asked to look at our, well, I would say the 7 of Wands is asking us to look at our energetic hygiene, our boundaries, our magical defenses. When was the last time we cleansed everything? That's what I would be looking at. And then do less death. Do less death. Note to self, write a little sticky note. Do less death. For me, this would be focus on the inner work and maybe don't make any big changes around this time, or rush into things that are going to be life-altering changes. That's just how I would see it. Then we have the full moon, which is about surrendering, and it's asking us to do more. Queen of Pentacles. This would be taking care of our health. For me, that's very much what's calling here. Surrender to our body. So maybe there's going to be a bit of an illness or an unexpected, we're not feeling it. Some full moons we can get knocked around a little bit. Maybe that full moon this person would be, and they need to just take care of themselves. And it does make sense when you have a look at the do less card, which is the devil in the Druidcraft Tarot. You know, don't give in to temptation to kind of get pulled out and make yourself even sicker. Okay, she's also looking, she's at a cauldron, so I'd say that is, you know, another indication to take care of yourself. And then we have down the bottom the dark moon, about perseverance and to do more, the Knight of Swords, which is action. So maybe feeling better, we now need to get back into things and start taking action. We've had a lot of time of reflection in the new and the full moon. Now is the time for action for sure. And do less the 2 of Pentacles. So a little less, you know, juggling too many things at once and just focusing on one thing, because it's what the swords are very good at, is focusing on one thing and cutting through the crap. So less, maybe that's what got this person juggling too much into this sort of energetic, you know, sickness or exhaustion or whatever it is. So looking around, we have two major arcana cards in the do less. So there's a real call here for this person to
2 take care of themselves. And if you ever find too that a lot of cards come up, like if you had a bigger spread and in the same tarot, like different tarot decks, the same cards come up, definitely take some time to research them and read a few passages on them, or get your favorite books out and see if anything jumps out at you. I love doing that because passages will certainly, you know, use your book as an oracle. We've got 2 court cards here too, so maybe there's a lot of people who are outsidely influencing this person, or they need to take control more of what's going on for them, and not allowing others to do it for them. So this has been my gift to you all, a tutorial on using multiple decks, oracle and tarot in your readings, along with 3 spreads for you to use with a free download. So make sure you go and grab that because it's so pretty. And thank you again so much for watching.